We got a special guest today. He's the new quarterback for the Redblacks, and he's headed to Ottawa this summer with a Grey Cup ring on his finger from 2019. Matt Nichols, welcome to the 11th Island.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. We really appreciate it. So to start off, walk us through the moment you found out the 2021 CFL season was actually going to happen. How'd that feel?
Man, it still doesn't even feel like it's happening until I'm on a plane headed there. That's how crazy it's been the last year and a half or whatever. And obviously there's just so many months where you're training and you're just wondering if you're training for a reason or not. And I think more than anything, it was just nice kind of getting that definitive date where it's we're going, and kind of mentally you can be have a few weeks here where what you're really preparing for, even though I've been working out hard for the last year and a half. It's you can really start to kind of put yourself in the mental space that I'm going to be playing a season here in a few weeks.
Yeah, it was a roller coaster through the pandemic for the CFL. There was all this financial trouble. Was there concern that we were shutting off the lights for good even?
I would say so. I mean, there's definitely talks about it. And then as a player, it was at times hard to have a lot of confidence when, all you hear is just the same rumors everyone else hears. And, you started thinking about the potential of, this might not happen and start making moves outside of football. And so you've seen a lot of guys, opting to stick kind of with what they've found outside of football here recently. And, for me, luckily as a quarterback, kind of have that, that ability to hang around and wait and happy that things are getting going now, obviously.
And what was the communication like between the league, the organizations, and the players? Was it very consistent, or were you just getting small drops every once in a while?
Small drops every once in a while. And, for no one, no one's fault, I don't think. I think that, it was just all driven by the pandemic and, how governments have been handling it. And, and then in Canada with different provinces kind of having different standards on everything, and us being such a, countrywide league where, we're kind of going off of whoever is the strictest. And so, I think just getting pieces here and there, but I think everyone, worked hard coming to, kind of making this thing happen and, making the season to go. So, happy that, it seems like every day I'm seeing more information about Canada kind of trending in the right direction. And I know the US definitely has been, it almost feels weird going out and about. We're here where pretty much everything's open, California fully open, which is where I live. And so, even just kind of being around groups of people again, almost just feels weird. So it feels awesome at the same time, but also it's even being fully vaccinated, kind of want to have a mask on when I'm around groups of people. And so I think a lot of it's just kind of integrating back into what life used to be like.
Yeah. You mentioned you're fully vaccinated there. Is the CFL kind of communicated with the players about any vaccination policies or kind of the percentage that they're looking for players being vaccinated?
I mean, no policies, not, there's nothing where it's you have to go get vaccinated, but obviously I think encouraged to do so. And then also I think, we don't know exactly what the season's going to look like, but there is, things kind of put in place where, I think the vaccinated players are probably going to have a little bit more options, maybe when we're on road games or, even in terms of just kind of being at the stadium and what you're allowed to do and, maybe less testing and all these things that come with being vaccinated. And so I think that it can make your life easier. And then obviously the fact that, if you obviously in a shortened season and a season where we haven't played in, a year and a half, almost 2 years, you don't want to miss games because of it. So obviously if being vaccinated helps you not contract COVID and then have to miss games and then, potentially take out some of your teammates if they're around you. I think just overall for me, it was kind of a no-brainer that, I want to protect the people around me and myself as much as I can. And so, I've been fully vaccinated since April. And honestly, I think it makes me feel better when I have been around some groups of people that, having that vaccine is, just kind of a calming on your mind a little bit.
For sure.
For sure.
Speaking of your teammates there too, so you're going to be going to Ottawa, new team. Have you been able to reach out, talk with some of your new teammates, start building that chemistry for the season?
Yeah, for sure. And then, kind of right away, I've, had some Zoom meetings of my own with the receivers and the offensive line, and, get to know those guys a little bit. And then,
Mm-hmm.
you know, we, especially with Instagram and all these things now, is always easy to just kind of message with these guys a little bit back and forth. And then, we're going to have a long training camp with no preseason games. We're going to get to know each other quickly. And that month of July is going to feel like a year, when you go through Groundhog Day of just football all day, every day. And it'll be, it's a pretty sped up process where you get to know everyone really quick, and, go out of my way to make sure that I am connecting with all my teammates. I feel like that's something I love to do, something I've missed, since 2019 season ended, and look forward to getting back to.
For sure. Now, as you go to Ottawa, you're reuniting with Paul LaPolice, who was your offensive coordinator back in Winnipeg. Was that part of the reason why you wanted to go to Ottawa?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've been playing quarterback for something like 26 years of my life, and there's coordinators that you click with, and he's one of them for me. I mean, I've said it many times, he makes me a better player. He makes me a better person. Just being around him and how hard he works, how much he cares about it. There's, not someone else that I would want to play for if I had a choice, and I, had a little bit of a choice there, and it was easy decision for me to make, to be able to be back with Lapo in an offense that, he created, but I think that it has evolved a lot over the 4 or 5 years we were together, with, a lot of, he and I collaborating and playing to my strengths. And, he knows what I do well, and I know he's going to put me in a position to succeed. So, it's an easy decision for me to want to play for him.
You mentioned you had a little bit of a choice there. Your release from the Argos, it kind of publicly was stated as a contract dispute. Was that just because of COVID financial difficulties that the team faced?
I really don't know. Honestly, was there wasn't really much of any communication. Actually, it was kind of like, we need you to take a very large pay cut, and didn't really. Yeah, there was no negotiating back and forth or anything, and and then when the option came up that potentially, really when you feel it coming down to the wire that nothing had been done with Arbuckle yet, you always assume that they probably have something done, it just hasn't been announced. And then once it gets to 3 or 4 days before those bonuses were due, it's like, all right, well, maybe I do have a chance to go play for Lapo. And and then it was really like, I'm just gonna hang on and see if this can work out the way I want it to, and it did.
All right. Maybe a little extra motivation to circle the Argos games on the calendar this year then?
Man, there's some player or coach or something that's happened against every team in the league that has me circling every single team. So
That's fair.
I don't think that I don't have any like ill feelings towards them. I never even suited up for them, and
That's fair.
Things just didn't work out the way they were supposed to. And but now the only other team that isn't on my schedule until potentially the Grey Cup is with Winnipeg is kind of almost like a weird thing to me. I was looking at the schedule, like just looking at kind of who we play week to week, and at the end of it realized like, oh man, we don't even play Winnipeg, which was kind of weird, especially in a league where you're used to playing everyone 2 or 3 times. It was kind of a weird thing to see a team just not on your schedule. I think that's might be a first in the CFL.
Yeah, imagine that was a big disappointment not being able to go back, especially after winning the Grey Cup there, essentially the year after.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been a fun game, and it's it'd be fun to return somewhere that you played for a long time, and to not have that opportunity, is what it is. But I think as we get the season going, it's something that won't even think about. But hopefully, I do get a chance to play them at some point this year.
Yeah.
Now, with no season last year, it baffles me how there's all these wise guys coming out and putting out like rankings, power rankings, and everything when there's no metrics and everything's been shuffled around. And you said to that, I hope everyone picks us to finish dead last. Can you walk us through what you were thinking when you said that?
Well, I mean, I obviously know that Ottawa's coming off a 3-15 season, and so obviously the people that make those selections, whatever, they basically go off of what it looked like at the end of the last season, which was a long time ago. I think that every team goes through a lot of changes, and I think for me, I'm just a small town kid, went to a small college, and all these things where it's just you always feel like you're kind of having to prove yourself, and kind of no matter how many good things I do, it's like you always just feel like everyone's kind of doubting what you can do. And so I don't know, I just kind of like it that way. Lapo and I both preach that we just fully focus on what we're doing in our building, and things will take care of themselves and block out the noise and all that stuff. And so I don't know, it's more fun to prove people wrong, I think. So it's fun. It's the way I've always played, with the chip on my shoulder and kind of hard hat mentality, and go to work and look forward to helping this team be better than it was a couple of years ago.
Yeah, it's a better movie that way, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. As the veteran and team leader that you are too, do you feel like the young guys that kind of might be reading a little bit too much into the media, that you have to kind of take them under your wing to make sure they don't get their heads down?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, especially in this day and age where everyone's fully connected and looks at Twitter and looks at Instagram and sees what people are writing about you. Being a professional quarterback as long as I have, I've obviously, had those years where those things affect you, and you have to learn how to block some of that stuff out and be a professional. And so, I definitely feel like I have some good knowledge in that area to, pass on to my teammates, and, make sure that everyone just understands that, it's what happens between the lines. That's, if it was what people said outside, or what, rankings were, or what they say on the TSN panel or whatever, it's like, we wouldn't even play the games then. And so, for me, it's like the thing I always lean on is, I'm in control of how well I play and how well my offense plays, and, not people that are talking about it. I'm the one doing it.
Okay. And in 2019, so you injured your shoulder, you had to have surgery that ended up taking you out of that year. Was the year off almost a blessing in disguise to get to 100% coming into this year?
Well, I would have been ready to go, but obviously anytime you can have a little bit more time to heal something, and then just that extra time to continue to work out. And basically it was a season of, not getting hit. So obviously that can prolong your career, especially when, going into my 12th professional season. So maybe in the long run, I would have, it still kind of sucked to miss a full season, but, I think more than anything, probably reminds a lot of people how important this game is to them. And, for me and myself, just, missing the locker room and kind of that daily grind of watching film and scheming with Lapo about what we're going to do to our opponent, and, going out and, throwing touchdowns in front of 30,000 people. I mean, there's just no way to replicate that stuff. And I think a year off makes you remember to really appreciate it. And, I'm looking forward to getting back to it.
Now, even though you were hurt during the postseason in 2019, you were a major piece and reason for why Winnipeg was able to get and win the Grey Cup. And that ended a championship drought in that city. How special was that for you, and how special was that for Winnipeg?
Yeah, I mean, it was incredible. Obviously, I would have loved to finish that season, but the first 9 games we did play, felt like I was on pace for an MOP type season, and we were in first place and kind of set us up in good position. Unfortunate injury where I've been hit 1,000 times harder than that, and just kind of fell awkwardly, and so it's just unfortunate. But for me, it was all the other players on my team, especially that core group of kind of 25, 30 guys that have been there since we were awful in 2015, and we kind of built that thing together. So for me, it was kind of a decision just to still be there at 5 a.m. every day, game planning, helping the other quarterbacks, and helping the coaching staff, and whatever I could do just to have that feeling of celebrating with my teammates. And we had a great time there. Celebrating that championship, and it was just awesome to see, kind of that 4 years of, hard work and turnaround to end the way we wanted it to. was pretty cool, and it was a great way to, it's never easy to leave a place when you've been there for that long. But I do know that I left Winnipeg in much better shape on and off the field than I found it, and so that's kind of the way I look at it. And it was a good chapter in my life, and ready to start the next one.
For sure. Sounds like you always have kind of a special connection to the city of Winnipeg for the time there, and especially the way it ended.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, that was kind of where my 5 years of grinding to try and get on a field, finally got my real shot there, and played some of my best football there. My youngest daughter was born there. Yeah, definitely a place that, will always mean something to me, but, the show must go on, and it's a change business in professional football for whatever reason, kind of, no matter how good you play, or like I said, create a better place than what you found, they have no problem moving on from you, and that's just the way it is.
For sure. So during the time off with COVID, did you feel like you were able to get sufficient training in with all the lockdowns and restrictions?
Yeah, especially because where I was living in Washington, a lot of the PT clinics were remained open because it was considered an essential business, and so actually where I train is half physical therapy, half sports performance training, and so they got to stay open because they're a PT facility. And technically for a lot of that, I was still doing like minor stuff with my shoulder, but then I actually had like the work outside to myself because they weren't able to just do like their normal training stuff in there. It was just PT people. And so I actually had a really good setup. And then really the last few years, my wife and I have built a kind of a home gym where we have treadmill and Peloton and dumbbells and pull-up bar and TRX bands and all that stuff. So I kind of have my own training facility at home too. And then, the hardest part I think was for a long time, throwing into QB throwing nets and stuff and not having just a bunch of receivers to throw to was, probably the only drawback. But aside from that, I mean, I think I've had some good resources to be able to train and stay in shape. I'm good and ready to go.
Awesome.
Yeah. Now, do you feel like you have a bit of an edge on the Canadian-based players? Because we over here, I mean, we can't even go to the gym right now.
I mean, possibly. Yeah. I mean, I know that in different parts of the U.S. are different. I mean, some were on lockdown for a long time with gyms shut down, and so it was difficult for some guys. But then, if you're living in Florida or Texas, the pandemic didn't exist there ever, and so I think it just depends on kind of where you were, and then like I said, luckily for me, we had already kind of built up a home gym and was going to the PT place that had a training facility built in. And so, it just kind of depends on what your setup was. But there's definitely guys in the U.S. that were handcuffed a little bit. And I definitely feel for a lot of the Canadian players that have had to kind of jump through hoops and find creative ways to stay in shape.
For sure. Now, way back at the beginning, when you originally came to the CFL in 2011, as an American, was it a big culture shock, and how familiar were you with the CFL?
Yeah, well, actually, I came up in 2010. So I was with the Cowboys for a little bit through a few preseason games, and then got released, did some workouts for some other teams and didn't get signed, and then had a chance to go to Edmonton. And so I was there actually the last 5 or 6 weeks of the 2010 season, which was actually great for me because I did get to have a little bit of that learning phase for a couple months at the end of the season. So training that off season, I kind of knew about the field dimensions and just some of the rules and the 20-second play clock and just all the things that kind of play into playing quarterback in the Canadian League. That when the 2011 training camp rolled around, I felt like that allowed me to just kind of hit the ground running a little bit better than if that would have been my first year. And it always feels like you're learning a new rule every day. It's like, oh, what's that last touch? Like, what's a route? Like, I mean, it's just like you're just there's just these little things that are all different. I mean, when you get back there behind center and the ball snapped and you go to throw a route, I mean, it feels like football you've been playing your whole life, but there's just so many nuances that you kind of got to get used to. And then I mean, I just fell in love with the game right away. I feel like it fits my skill set pretty well, and I knew about it a little bit because Greg Peach, who was starting defensive end for 7 years in the league, was my college roommate, and he left a year before me and was playing at Edmonton, so I watched some of his games. I grew up in the same hometown as Ricky Ray, and so when I was in high school, I knew that he was in Canada winning Grey Cups, but I didn't really know what that meant. And the games weren't on TV. So I knew of the CFL for a long time, but in terms of just like watching games and knowing really what it was about, probably wasn't until my senior year of college when found out Edmonton had me on their neg list and my buddy was playing up there.
Awesome. And we love to finish our interviews with some kind of just fun, rapid questions. So just start off. What's your favorite CFL stadium to play in?
Oof. I mean, this is a really hard question because I have like great things about all of them, honestly.
Sure.
I mean, dude, this is so hard. Honestly, I love playing. I mean, it's hard not to say Regina because, I mean, stadium is just incredible. As much as having the fans be against you, but just how passionate they are. I mean, it's like there's no better place to play probably as a visiting quarterback. And then I do feel like for whatever reason, I've always played some of my best football in Ottawa, and I think it's because I do feel relaxed in the city. Like I have kind of a routine there, just like grab a cup of coffee, go check out the Parliament buildings and stuff, get down to the game, and I love that kind of that condo building down there. And it's always a same type of thing, a packed stadium, and it always seems to be like a couple of fans that just like yelling at you from behind the bench, and it's always been one of my favorite places to play too. So those two, and then I mean, like I said, I could talk about all the stadiums. Like BC, I get to play indoors. I'm a quarterback. Like I know what the weather's going to be. I love the setting in Montreal is awesome, and the fans in the Beer Snake in Winnipeg are awesome. I mean, it's definitely places every place has something I love about it for sure.
Okay.
Sure. Now then, least favorite stadium to play in?
Probably Calgary, just because I mean it's freaking hard to win there, man. Like we're playing for a long time. They're always good. I mean, there was even a game where I threw a touchdown with 19 seconds left to take the lead, and freaking Bo threw like a 20-yard dig, and then something down the seam where someone made a one-handed catch, and then Paradis hit like a 53-yard game winner to win. It's like it's a kind of a hard place to win, and so I guess I would have to say there. Not for anything to have to do with the actual stadium. It's just a hard place to go and win.
Okay, that's fair. And then, did you pick up any non-sports related hobbies during the pandemic?
Oh, I don't know about anything new. I mean, I've always been a huge golfer.
Nice.
And then really with football season kind of runs through golf season for the most part.
Yeah.
And so actually last summer, I mean, it was by far the most golf I've gotten to play since probably no kids. And I was the fourth string quarterback in Edmonton and didn't travel. So the team would leave on Thursday and I would play 3 days of 36 holes a day with, no kids. And, so I was probably the most golf I had played this last year because of the pandemic, which was awesome. Like I'm a golf fanatic.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Now this one might be tough to answer on the record. Who's your favorite teammate?
Favorite teammate I've ever had?
Yeah.
Oh, this is really tough because there's like, if anyone sees this, they'll be like, "Yo, man."
Yeah.
But I'm gonna eliminate JC Sherritt and Greg Peach just because they're my college teammates and they're like best buds. So outside of those guys, probably Weston Dressler. Just one of the best people you could ever be around in terms of being he's the smartest receiver I've ever had, where he sees the game like a quarterback. We would sit on the airplane and go through the whole call sheet, and there'd be a lot of plays where he'd have like 4 options that he could do on the route, and I would tell him against each coverage where I was expecting him to go, and like he was just never wrong. Like no matter what, I'd be reading it, it's like, man, I hope he's going to the corner, and he'd stick his foot in the ground and go to the corner. It's like we were just on the same page. and just good vibe guy that's always in a good mood. So I'll definitely I'll say Weston.
That's awesome. And do you have an all-time favorite football player? Maybe somebody that you modeled your game after growing up?
Honestly, not really. I mean, there's guys that, be like a few years here and there, just like guys I want to watch. And then obviously Tom Brady's always been kind of the top of that list where, he just does so many things that makes what I know is a incredibly, maybe one of the hardest jobs in the world, and he just kind of makes it look easy. And so I've just always had so much respect for him and how long he's been able to do it at such a high level. So, if there was someone that I felt like, man, like he makes my job look easy, he's definitely Tom Brady.
Okay, that's fair.
And finally, last question. We got to ask, how is Disney?
Oh, it's incredible. We're like Disney nut family. Like I grew up in California and never went as a kid. We had my first daughter. My wife's like, we got to go to Disneyland. And I was kind of like, all right, we'll go. Like I wasn't excited though. We got there and it's like, dude, this really is incredible. And then, so now we go every year. We've been to Orlando for it. We went to the Disney Resort in Hawaii this last year. And we surprised our daughters. They didn't know we were going. Just kind of woke up that day, put them in the car, and took them to Disneyland. And then we got it nailed now. Like we don't really hit lines. We know like what order to do stuff in. And then this is my first time going though to Disneyland with the new Star Wars, the whole Star Wars land they have. And I'm like Star Wars nut. My oldest daughter's middle name is Leia. And
that's awesome.
So when we went there, and it's like you're in a movie. And like I don't know, like it was a really cool trip, and we've just been trying to do stuff like that as a family right now because this will be the first year in 12 where my family's actually gonna be staying home and going up for a season by myself, kind of planning out hopefully seeing them once a month, depending on how the travel is into Canada for my family. But we're really just trying to do a bunch of stuff like that before I take off.
That's awesome. That's really good. Imagine, I mean, with Canada, we live in Canada. We don't know day to day what the rules are going to be. So to be able to spend that time now must be really nice.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. We really appreciate you coming on. We look forward to be able to be in the stands to see you in person. It's been a long time since we've been able to do that in Canada, and we wish you the best of luck in the season.
I appreciate you guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Matt.